fire them up. That's what we do at the Andrew Gosser Show. We fire them up right here on 1039 WYAB, where we are streaming on Rumble, where we are streaming on X, where we are streaming on YouTube. No one cares about Facebook, and we're streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com, ladies and gentlemen. If you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal that is WYAB or WYAB, like, share, and subscribe. Help us build the channel. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend, tell a Democrat. We'd appreciate that. Follow me on X. It's just at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. I'll be linking a lot of the stories that I use on the program today so that you can trust what I'm saying, but you can validate it. And if my source is bad, we can talk about it. Number, if you want to be on the show today, it appears the phone line's working. We're going to find out. 601-879-0002. Text line is open no matter what. 601-879-5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. The show is standard, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat of its fruits. And as I was doing my show prep last night, I had a very strong idea of where the show was going to go today. And then world happens, life happens. And the things that I thought I was going to talk about in the first segment, in the first hour, were put to the side. And it was put on my heart to talk about this and things I'm about to say and the impacts of my speech and my words. Am I building things up or am I tearing them down? Am I an encouragement or a destroyer? Am I a blessing or am I a curse? And depending on your worldview, you might have a definite opinion of me and the things I say and how I say them. I'm always trying to be a blessing, but I'm not afraid to tear something down if I think that it's not built correctly. It's not built with integrity and honor. You know, I'm here to encourage people, but I don't mind destroying things like the Epstein files and holding people accountable for stuff like that. You have to go in and sometimes there are things that are built on a poor foundation, Superior Foundations. Great sponsor of the show. We appreciate Todd Sandrich and everybody at Superior.ms. Great company. We talk about it all the time. It's how your house is built. Some could say, Andy, you could get biblical and talk about the house that's built on sand and the house that's built on a firm foundation. Yes, I could. But I say all that because this morning, and we will talk about the Save America Act in the second hour because there are developments happening there. But I was pleasantly surprised by Dark Horse Press, and that's where we're starting off today's show, ladies and gentlemen. Dark Horse Press. Operation Muddy Waters nets 61 arrests, rescues children, and rescues a child from sextortion scheme. Some say it could be as high as 69 now. And this is the first place I saw it. Therese Apple from Dark Horse Press. I know that there's other stories out there, and we will reference them, but I always like to give the smaller news agencies that break these local stories, even though this is going to be national in nature. We'll get there. Trust me. And it's a press release from the Attorney General from the state of Mississippi, Miss Lynn Finch. She was the one who said, you thought that Save America Act was going to be the main story of the day, Andrew. Hold my beer. Yes, Madam Attorney General. I promise I won't drink and drive. Federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies arrested 61, some say 69 people during a 2-week child exploitation enforcement effort across Mississippi that also rescued a child from an active sextortion scheme, officials announced Tuesday. Attorney General Jen Finch joined Homeland Security investigations, the U.S. attorneys for Mississippi's northern and southern districts, and numerous law enforcement partners to announce the results of Operation Muddy Waters, which ran from July 20th to July 31st. And you know what? Whenever we have something like this happen, the first thing I say is thank you. If you just save one child, that's worth everything that you spent on it. We're commanded to leave the 99 for the one, right? You'll see why I'm saying that, because that's just not something that you get in the pew on a Sunday, but I'm digressing a little bit. Investigators arrested 13 people, charges related to child exploitation, and 48 registered sex offenders accused of failing to comply with registry requirements. Wow, that's a lot of people. Some say there's some other reports, and I'm not sure which uh, news agency is reporting it, but they're saying that some people with public affiliation, public leaders, it happens to everybody in all walks of life. I'm not saying it happens to every person. There are some people out there who see that stuff and get repulsed by it and go to snuff it out. There are other people who just say, "Ah, it's not for me," and there's other people who partake in it. But I digress. Authorities also seized more than 50 electronic devices, executed more than 8 search warrants, and secured 3 immigration detainers. So does that mean we found 3 illegal aliens also participating in the exploitation of children, whether it be child labor or sexually or otherwise? I'm telling you what, there is so much of this out there, and I am so grateful. I am. You're not gonna hear me say one bad word about this operation. I'm just gonna say what's next. You know, I genuinely am telling this, and I know that you can hear it in the sincerity of my voice. I have nightmares when I think about the testimony that Tim Tebow gave in front of Congress. We talked about it here on the program a couple months ago. You all remember when he testified before Congress talking about how he had millions of people who were actively going into their computers or cell phones and accessing and searching for child pornography. And then those were the red dots, and then there were the blue dots, which you couldn't see. There were 143 blue dots, millions of red dots. Those were the active investigations. I've had one law enforcement person say, "Andy, that would completely bog down law enforcement." Yep, yep, it would, and every child would be worth it. That's the way we've gotta go. And I'm excited for this, and I'm grateful for it, and when people do something that you appreciate, you need to say it, even if you don't agree with them on other things, and Lord knows that, I have been more than critical of some of the decisions that Attorney General Lynn Finch has made in the past, but this is a good one. U.S. Attorney Scott Leary of the Northern District of Mississippi said investigators will continue pursuing those who exploit children. We will be absolutely relentless in our pursuit to those who seek to exploit our kids, Leary said. These crimes are an abomination. Do you know that an abomination is a biblical word? We use words that we don't even know where they come from. You know, I got crucified on that job interview the other day. They were asking me all sorts of questions that I didn't even know about. Do you know where crucified actually came from? Andy, it came from the Romans. Okay, who made it famous? If you only have to guess one person who ever got crucified, you know who you'd say. Operation Muddy Waters coordinated arrests and search warrants across Mississippi while also conducting compliance checks to make sure to locate registered sex offenders who are not complying with the registration requirements. Man, I, I that's like the worst our society has to offer. I put child predators and people who exploit children lower than drug dealers. I put them at the lowest of the low. Some could maybe argue murder, but I don't know. The Mississippi Attorney General's office serves as the host agency in the state's Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, which includes nearly 90 law enforcement agencies and 145 personnel focused on investigating online crimes against children. And I had to, because, you know, we have zealots on all sides, right? We have these these online detectives who can sit there and tell you everybody's criminal history after 15 minutes on X, 10 minutes on TikTok, and about another 15 minutes on Meta. They got it all figured out. They've got it all doped out. But then you have to go in front of a court of law. And I've been very blessed in my life to sit down with some of these professionals, these people who do this for a living, and say, Andrew, I hear you on the radio and you talk about how easy some of this stuff is. Why don't you come take a ride with me? Why don't we show you exactly what some of the work is that goes into prosecuting some of this stuff? And yes, I attend church with several law enforcement officials, security officials, attorneys. Andy, you're a little bit harsh there. You're a little bit harsh. Yeah, I know some other people who are a little bit harsh. So, and this isn't the first one that Attorney General Lynn Finch has done. She's done a couple more of these. And I'm not here to talk about everything else that Lynn Finch has done in her past that I might have contention with. That's not the purpose of this segment. This segment is to talk about how in your backyard, you can basically put a half-mile circle around your house, and it's just the statistics. It's freaky. It's scary. It's an abomination in the eyes of the God that there's some type of child exploitation going on. And I'm not here to turn people into snitches, but I know for me personally, if I had personal knowledge of that, it would be put to an end one way or another. Not condoning violence, I'm saying I would make sure that the authorities knew, and we'd go from there. But so many of us get caught up in everyday life. We've got parking spaces to paint, right, Toots McCracken? We've got little Joey soccer practice to go to, right, Dad? We've got little Sonia's ballerina practice to go to, right, Mom? We all know that, and parents, we know it when we see it. We can feel it. We've been blessed with to know that sometimes we can pick up people who are creepers, and then we have people who you would never expect who are creepers too. So I'm not painting a blanket of absolution over anybody. I'm not trying to give anybody a pardon. I don't have the auto pen. But I'm saying we need to do a much better job as a society of going after these creeps, these abusers, these exploiters, and holding to them account. It's what our culture demands, or it used to demand anyways. But now, with the advent of technology, crime's moving quicker and quicker. And like one law enforcement official said, the speed of justice grinds slowly. And I know you don't like it. I know I don't like it, but that's the system that we have. And if we speed it up, we start letting AI make the decisions. Ooh, they even make movies about that, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB. We'll be right back. And we are back here on the Andrew Gosser Show. I always love it when I get family updates in the middle of the show. My son just texted me, my granddaughter is 3 years old in 3 days. She's 3 years, 3 days old. She's 3 foot tall and 3 foot 3 inches tall, or 3 foot 3 inches tall. And she weighs 33 pounds. Imagine that. Numerology. It's out there, ladies and gentlemen. Also got an unknown text asking me where I got the 69 number from. And so I quickly did my research. And this is coming from the Magnolia Tribune, which we're going to quote here in a second, but we'll get two for the price of one. Magnolia Tribune, Cass Rutledge. Scroll down. He says, in just 2 weeks, Operation Muddy Waters to date has resulted in 69 arrests for child exploitation offenses, the solicitation of minors, the possession and distribution of child sexual abuse material, and violations involving previous convicted sex offenders, Special Agent Riedel said. So that's where I got it from. And I promise you in the next commercial break, I'll put that on X as well. But we got to go to part 2 of the main addition to today's episode, auditioning to be the main character. Well, not auditioning. She is the main character. Exclusive, ladies and gentlemen. This is coming from Magnolia Tribune and our man, Frank Corder. We like Frank. He's a good guy. Never met him, but his reporting is solid. And we appreciate that here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB. Exclusive. Lynn Finch announces run for governor, visits with Magnolia Tribune to kick off her campaign. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is now official. I think we have 3, if not 4 candidates. I know that at least 3 publicly declared ones. And if someone can tell me if the 4th is publicly declared, that'd be great. But I know for sure we've got Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. We've got Agriculture Commissioner Andy Gibson, friend of the show, good guy. He's been my ag commissioner. And we also now have Attorney General Lynn Finch, which is absolutely shocking to me in that we have 3 really high-powered statewide elected politicians all gunning for the same office. Text line coming in basically saying WLBT states that there are about 65 more people under investigation in Operation Muddy Waters. Yeah, I like to use WLBT, but I always try to go with the sources that see it first, brother. And I appreciate that. I really do. But I always try to, the ones who push it out first and take that risk and go on their reporting, bam, that's where I go. And I have algorithms, by the way, that populate where the stories hit first. So I see it by where the timestamp is. So, yep. But that's not the story now. You know, Attorney General Lynn Finch put those people into position to succeed, and she has. And now she's saying she wants to run the state of Mississippi. And this is how Frank Corder starts off the story. According to Pew Research, 18 states have never elected a female as governor, with Mississippi among the lot. I appreciate him using the lot. Very British type of word right there. As of Tuesday, Lynn Finch is looking to change that. I still have something to give back to Mississippi, Finch told Magnolia Tribune ahead of her gubernatorial announcement. It would certainly be an incredible honor. Well, I'll tell you what, being elected to dog catcher is an honor. And she is feeling that she has something to put into the mixer, which is a really interesting conundrum. But I want to talk about this a little bit more before I go down this road here. Neighboring states have bucked the norm. Arkansas elected its first female governor in 2022. Tennessee could elect its first woman governor this year. Alabama's governor, the second woman to hold the office in state history, is currently the longest-serving female chief executive in U.S. history. So, again, we're going for the best woman here, not the best person or the best man. And you know what? I think that it's important that we live in a society where the best person, whether they are a man or a woman, is elected for the job. Man, my texts are blowing up now. I'm really excited because I feel like Mississippi is on the verge of moving into the nation's largest, best kept secret in the nation's leader in conservative governance. Well, I agree on the first part of that, Attorney General Finch. Mississippi is the very best place to live in all of the United States. If you really like the cold and the views, you could say Alaska, maybe Montana. But I'm telling you, Mississippi, for the people that we have here, the friendliness, the cost of living, the food, the socialization, we really have it better than everybody else. Nation's leader in conservative governance? Uh, I would have to say that we should be the nation's leader in conservative governance, but are we? Do we do the things that we need to do to lead on an issue, not just necessarily swim with the school of fish all in the right direction? Because leadership sometimes means you got to turn the school of fish around. You know, you got all the fish swimming one way, and all of a sudden you'll see one flip the other way. And the leader is swimming against the school. All of a sudden, one or two more flip. And and I'm not saying that Mississippi isn't one of the first ones to turn around and jump on the bandwagon. We are. But if and I'm not sitting here bashing Attorney General M. Fitch. I'm not sitting here bashing Governor Tate Reeves or Delbert Hosemann or Jason White. Not bashing any of them. I'm just saying the record is that Mississippi doesn't lead the way in things. We should be leading the way in Sharia law, anti-Sharia law legislation. We should be leading the way in small government, limited government. We should be leading the way in fiscal responsibility. We should be our senators. I will make a mild shout out to our senators. I've got a story coming up in the next segment about this. Are our senators doing everything we can to support the Trump agenda? But it gets better. She is standing with Sarah Sanders Huckabee, or is it Sarah Huckabee Sanders? One of the two. I'm not trying to get your name wrong, Madam Governor. It's just me and names. It's just what it is. They're standing in front of a Trump 47 sign that says Trump 47 for women. And if we're being truthful, do you feel like our Attorney General has done everything she possibly could to support the Trump agenda? And maybe she has done things that we don't get reported. But if I go to WLBT right here, she has her announcement on there today as well. Fitch, a Republican, announced her campaign statement positioning herself as a, quote, Trump conservative, focused on pocketbook issues, public safety, and conservative social policies. I have to say, when it comes to social policy, Attorney General Fitch, at least from the public point of view, has done a really good job. Is it a coincidence that Operation Muddy Waters came out the same day that she announced her election? I don't know. You tell me. I have the experience, the record, and the proven leadership to take Mississippi to the top. Well, it's not at the top yet, but I'll tell you what, it's certainly going in the right direction with all the different forces pulling on Mississippi, some pulling it down, some pulling it to the left, some trying to pull it up. If you're pulling it to the right, you are pulling it to the up, by the way. I'm just saying. Personal opinion there. Her tenure as Attorney General, Fitch oversaw the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health. And you know what? If you were attached to that and you did that work, that's a great thing. Mississippi stands for children. Mississippi fights for babies. We fight for life. We don't fight for poor decisions, and we've got to start talk about some poor decisions people are making when it comes to that. That's a whole nother issue. In her campaign platform, Fitch highlighted her office to work on law enforcement partnerships. Okay, it's the first phone call. It was supposed to be up against the break, but I want to try to take it. Let's see what happens here. 3, 2, 1. Go ahead. You're on the air.
So if we could show that map that you showed earlier of Tebow, of where all the pedophiles are,
Yep.
whenever that map gets shown again, and there's not a single dot in Mississippi, I'll say we're leading in something.
Oh, I think there's so much more we can do, Brother Rick. And first of all, we got to say hooray to WLBT for fixing the phone lines. Good job.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But what I'm saying is that there should be way less than there is, and there's so much of it out there. And you know what? Operation Muddy Waters, 69 down, at least another 500,000 to go. I mean, that's just the numbers. There's one out of every 4 people are knowingly exploiting kids. I mean, that's just
Well,
the odds of
we
it.
need something kind of like the Castle Doctrine. I
Yeah.
think where if I walk into a bathroom and I see something going on, or if I'm walking through, it doesn't matter where I am, in a park, whatever. If you see somebody abusing a kid, you know, I shouldn't have to call 911. They should be calling 911 to get me off of them.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I can talk about places where people don't openly go after violent crime or go after defending kids. Right here in Mississippi, it happens all the time, and it's sad, Rick. And you're right that but when I'm just reporting the news as we get it, and if you look at other states not doing, believe it or not, they're doing much worse than we are in Mississippi. And I'm trying to be
and
as
it's
polite.
going to get worse.
Oh, I believe you, but today I'm letting the light burn bright, and there's a reason I started off the show the way I did, brother. I'm not trying to be short with you. You want to hang through the
No,
break, or do
that's
you want
fine.
to? We have to catch up. We got to figure out when you're coming on the air again. That's Brother Rick, everybody.
How we going?
Yep. Brother Rick is right, and we're going to talk about that because there was a picture that was circulating around X with Thomas Massey sitting at the table, MGT sitting at the table, and guess who was sitting at the head of the table, ladies and gentlemen? Tucker Carlson. Some conservatives are happy with it, some are not. And I think, dissent, it, it public dissent is okay. When you start creating dissension, that's another whole story. But I digress. But yep, long story short, ladies and gentlemen, I know we went a little long. I'm really excited. The phone line's working, but Attorney Lynn Finch is in the race to be the governor of Mississippi. Are you excited about that? Are you not? And I know that there's another person who is contemplating running for governor, but until I hear it from the horse's mouth and that horse is deployed downrange, I'm not going to say a word. But he's been on the radio before. Brother Blake Bartlum supports him greatly. And I'll say his name. His name's Shad White, but he's not publicly announced he's running for office yet. So can't put him in that list. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB. We'll be right back. I'm so happy the phone's working. Life is so good. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB, where we're spitting the truth, where it makes people happy or not. You got to do it. And a couple of texts coming in, three against Attorney General Lynn Finch, 1-4. And here's here's how I'm looking at it. And you might not agree with me on this, but after all, I am a recovering politician. I look at this beyond the primary. And I can disagree with somebody's stances on stuff and not go full West Hand on them. I can just say, you know, Secretary so and so, I disagree with you on that one, but this is where we agree. Let's focus there. And there are going to be a lot of people who look up to Lynn Finch and are excited for her to jump into this race. And I am excited for her to jump into this race because people know I am more of the outsider Tea Party MAGA type of Republican, conservative Republican. And there are people who like the established ways of doing things. And I do feel as though the established way of thinking is more of a Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann type of candidate or an Attorney General Lynn Finch type of candidate for governor. And everybody's going to be competing for the same resources, whether that be Andy and whoever else may jump into the race on the more conservative side. And what I find absolutely fascinating, and I know I'll take garbage for this, but that's okay, is how many times those of us who are MAGA types or Tea Party conservative types have we seen a real Tea Party conservative or a real MAGA candidate go up against more of an establishment candidate, mano y mano? Or has there always been a third candidate in the race, a third duck who gets in the pool and just poops it all up? I mean, you're looking at 4 or 5 candidates, and I I am not too naive, and I am not too foolish to realize that each one of these candidates who are getting into this race brings in a superior force, a strong force behind them. Some might have financial backing, some might have ground game, some might have a mix of financial and ground game. Some might have lobbyists behind them. Institutionalized giving. Some might have the attorneys behind them. Some might have one might have the farmers behind them. One might have the military behind them. But if you think about it, the Republican primary is looking pretty packed. 3, some would say at least 4. Someone says it's going to be 4 in the chat on a text chat that I'm on, but I'm not making that call. But if you think about it, the more people that get into that race, the more divided it's going to be. Brother Junk jumping in. I see Chris McDaniel. I don't think Chris is going to run for anything again. I should give him a call. You know, it was funny. That's what actually got me involved in Mississippi Republican politics. When we left Illinois, the rule was no Mississippi politics, but we did agree to be a poll watcher for Chris. And my wife, who had never been really politically active ever, actually took a day off of work to be a poll watcher and vote. She wanted to make sure she voted. And we went to our polling station and we went to vote. And we voted. We even Facebooked it, and then we poll watched for a while. And then when we pulled up the voter rolls, I found out that my vote, I wasn't on the voting roll. It said I didn't vote. Yet I got the picture with the metadata of me sitting at the polling location voting. I didn't take a picture of my ballot. No, I'm not going to jail for that. But we did. We were excited. And then we worked a second poll in the later part of the day. And Chris is someone that you never have to worry about where you stand with him. And you never have to worry about where he stands on an issue. And we lost a good one with Senator Chris McDaniel not becoming the next lieutenant governor. I think Jones County lost a really influential state senator. Mississippi lost a deal back in was it 2014? Was the big hullabaloo between Senator or Chris McDaniel and Roger Wicker, if I'm not mistaken? Maybe it was the other guy at the time. I wasn't here, so don't hold it against me. I could tell you all the Illinois politics of 2014, can't so much about Mississippi. But it just goes to show you that even good people, when you know where they stand and they're very open and honest with where you stand, they don't always get the good press. They're the ones who don't always get the positive reinforcement of party officials. And the party's going to say, look, we're not getting involved with this publicly. But privately, we all make decisions, right? Well, he's a county chair and he's, behind this person. He can't come out and publicly say it, but if you go in his front yard, you'll see what he's doing. And look, just because you're a party official and you got to remain neutral as far as what the party says, it never says what you can't do privately, which was painfully explained to me when I ran for office. Local party was mad at me because we already had forced out a bunch of people, but there were still some bitter clingers hanging on, and they got behind the establishment candidate, but we won because we kept it. We pointed out the things that needed to be fixed, and we had a positive message. And it's going to be really interesting to see the messaging coming from Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, the messaging coming from Agricultural Secretary Andy Gibson, and the Attorney General Lynn Finch. We'll see who takes the high road, who takes the low road, and again, who is again. It's going to come down to who is a better politician most of the time, who can get away with saying what they think needs to be said without alienating the other side so much that they turn away. Because whoever wins the Republican primary, guess what? In the end, there is going to be the Republican against the Democrat, and we're going to have to make a decision. Is the Republican so poor that we would rather have a Democrat? I think everybody in the sound of my voice should vote, even if it's for yourself. Don't vote for Mickey Mouse or Goofy, though. Vote for yourself. Don't, make that effort to go to the polls, because there are good men and women who are dying for your very right to vote. And I wouldn't call it, you don't have a right to vote. You have a duty to vote. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Caller, I see you. We'll get you on the other side. We'll be right back. I hear you, Michael. I'm going to actually lead with that on the next segment because while I'm not the biggest fan of Attorney General Lynn Fitch, I do recognize when she does something good. And it's a problem with the Republican politics, especially, is we will rip each other apart to where there's nothing left to work with. And I just don't want to be part of that with my show. I mean, the whole goal of my show is to build people to run for office locally. And I think that, Delbert Hoseman brings people to the table. Shad White brings people to the table. Lynn Fitch brings people to the table. Chris McDaniel brings people to the table. Andy Gibson brings people to the table. Don't want to forget anybody. But we need all these people building the bench locally so that we get the most possibly conservative, thoughtful leader that we can get. And the last thing you need is someone ripping Lynn apart and ripping you apart because, oh, here we go. Yo, 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 here we go on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB. You might have heard me talking to the audience in the chat. We do that sometimes. Michael Edwards just chimed in. He said, "Good morning, Andrew. Peace sign emoji. I think Lynn Fitch is more of a leader than a follower and not a bootlicker. And I like that. Shows honesty, in my opinion." And so you're the second positive comment I've got on Lynn, and I've got 3 negative ones. And I'm not going to sit here and the purpose of today's show is not to air my grievances with Attorney General Lynn Fitch. She's in the race, and she's going to bring some type of quantifiable political benefites to the race, and we've got to accept that. And there's good people out there who are going to support her. And like I was telling the audience, and I'll tell all of you now, or I was telling the chat, and I'll tell the audience now, you can sit there and have meaningful discussion and disagreements with certain politicians, but I don't want to get to the point to where I'm going completely West Ham United on a Republican unless I absolutely have to. Like, you haven't heard me rip apart Tucker. I've disagreed with him. Same with Massey. Same with MTG. I appreciate all the things that MTG did. I appreciate all the things Tucker did. I appreciate all the things that Thomas Massey did. But at some point, there's a point where you disagree with them, and I hope I've done so in a way that at least has shown that I respect the human as a person. But I also agreed that at some point, there are places where you have to go full scorched earth. Like the highway commissioner hiring his wife for $97,000, hiring his son-in-law number 1 for $91,000, son-in-law number 2 for $93,000. That's wrong, and it's not scorched earth to go ahead and call him out on that. I'm not even a fan of hers, but she has more stories than a lot of. She has more stories than a lot of guys. Just saying. Or stones, not stories, stones. Yep, and that's where it's going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to continue to sit there and build up this party, use it as a vehicle, or you can start your own party. But go figure. And I think we're back. We haven't had a intro of the emergency broadcast system. Glad to know it's working. Ladies and gentlemen, just like I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted, but we appreciate that interruption. We've got to build the party, but I'm just saying, if you're going to be a party builder, if you're going to go after somebody, make sure that you have the means to actually be impactful. No, I'm telling you, no politician is going to take you seriously if you're throwing snowballs from outside of the actual place that you're at. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show. We'll be right back. Oh, breaking news. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that she actually said that. This is going to be a good one, ladies and gentlemen. Wait till you hear that. This is going to be a good one.
Said earlier, I'm willing to stay through recess to get it done. What's up with recess anyway? Who gets a month off from work? I think we should stay up there and work and get it done. You have to have an ID to check out a library book to buy alcohol, and you don't have to have an ID to vote. That's absurd. In New Jersey, they had 6,600 people, non-citizens registered to vote, and several hundred of them did vote in our election. And I am all for, this is where I differ from my brother, getting rid of the filibuster to get this done, because eventually the Democrats are going to get rid of it anyway. All right, our next question comes, said earlier.
And we are back here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Caller, hang in there. You are tuned in to 103.9 WYAB, where we are streaming on Rumble, where we are streaming on X, where we are streaming on YouTube, where we are streaming at WYAB.com, and no one cares about Facebook. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal that is 103.9 WYAB, like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Share it out with your friends. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend, tell a Democrat. Let's build this thing together. Follow me on X. I've already posted the Lynn Finch stories there over the break. But you can follow me on X. It's just at Andrew Gosser, ANDREWGASSER. Phone number is working, 601-879-5060. Text line 601-879, or I'm sorry, phone line 601-879-0002. Text line 601-879-5060. And let's just get to this phone call real quick. Caller, that's totally my fault. I hit the wrong button. If you call back, I'll put you right on. But look, in the meantime, let's not forget the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show. We are here to equip the saints. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word incites anger. Caller, are you there?
I am here, Mr. Gasser. How are you doing, sir?
Brother Chris, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for calling, and sorry about the snafu on the button push there.
That's all right. I know. Believe me. You know that I know how it works.
Yep.
I want to say I'm happy to hear that Lynn Finch has entered the race, and I look forward to the opportunity for her to talk about her platform, the things that she wants to accomplish. I look at and analyze these a little differently. So once she puts her platform out there, does it include anything that she could have had an impact on while she was Attorney General? And did she do anything about it? And if she didn't, why not? I also look forward to the accomplishments that she had in regards to her office. I think that the Dobbs decision was definitely a pinnacle of what she has done.
Concur.
I will be interested to see what platform she goes on for someone to civilly and cogently challenge her. That will be very telling. Does she go on the usual speaking tours before groups that are probably a little more amenable to her, nicer to her? Or is she willing to sit with somebody like you, or Clay, Tim Wade, Chip, Lindsay, and sit down and actually talk about the issues and take some calls? Far too long we've had politicians, and you know this from being in the political arena here in Mississippi, that they won't show up at the locations where someone might ask them a question where they have to justify something they did or did not do. And I hope, I get the impression that Lynn Finch, I hope that she will be the person that will stand up to those questions, that will have cogent answers to being civilly challenged. Yeah. And I would encourage people, if they're going to ask questions, do it civilly. You don't need to yell and scream or come up with an agenda.
Yep.
I think she has an opportunity to do that. That would set her apart from many of the other candidates.
I completely agree, Chris. And this is like my plea to Mike Hurst of the Mississippi GOP. When we have the Republican debate, and I hope we do have one, but it sure would be great if we're going to have the talking head from WLBT and maybe from some radio station up there. But it'd be great if they had Chris Hinkle on that panel too, to ask questions, because that would be awesome.
I think you or Kim or Clay would be. Clay's the #1 morning show in the state of Mississippi right now.
That's
I
right.
think Clay's really good at conducting the interview and asking the questions that the citizens are interested in. I think Kim is that way as well. Kim seems to be, a gruff individual, and you and I both know from meeting him in person.
Yep.
He's really kind of timid, but he's thoughtful, and he has an amazing recall. I think he would do really well in asking questions. But if it turns out to be the usual gamut of WLBT or somebody from one of the other big radio stations down the dial,
Yep.
sitting up there that's asking questions that I consider not challenging. When you come away from the debate, regardless of who the moderators are, ask yourself, what was the most challenging question they asked, and what was the response of the candidate? That's been my practice to evaluate what's going on. I think that she would do well to set herself apart. Don't show up at the usual events and give the talking points and not open the floor up for questions. That's telling as well. You and I have been at events before where
Yep.
a candidate shows up and get there just late enough where they don't really have to engage too much with the citizens before the event, and they tend to leave about 5 minutes before the event's over with, so you don't get a chance to actually talk to them.
And I'm just saying this as a recommendation to Attorney General Lynn Fitch. I'm not one of her paid political advisors, but if she's planning on actually winning this thing, she is going to have to make herself stand out distinctively, not to the establishment crowd, but to the more conservative Tea Party, MAGA part of the Republican Party, because she's going to pull votes from Delbert.
You can't just go out and say 47, 47, 47,
Nope.
Trump. You've got to demonstrate, what did you do to further that agenda? Not just talking about it. What actions did you take? And I would think that some of the actions that we would see here soon, and this has been her MO, because I've talked to people on her staff. I haven't personally talked to her in a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but I've brought issues up before, like, hey, I'm looking at Missouri. They're doing this. I'm looking at Tennessee. I'm looking at Alabama. They're moving forward with this really important issue that's of interest to Mississippi. And shortly after that, something comes out and they, she signs on board with it. So
Yep.
At least she is listening. Whether or not she's leading, I'll leave that to the citizens there. And I'm not a paid pundit of Lynn Fitch, but I think it's a great opportunity if you set yourself apart. It's a great opportunity for the citizens to find out who is who.
I couldn't agree more, Chris. And I'm just at the point to where I don't want yelling and screaming politics. I don't want debates and speeches from the committee meetings where senators and congressmen are dropping F-bombs. I'm tired of that, and I'm calling out Republicans too. It just seems, and people are like, "Oh, Andy, you're such a Trump bootlicker." Well, I don't like it when my president swears in public. I just don't. But I overlook that to look at the policies, and I'm hoping that Lynn Finch has some of these things really ironed out well. Just like I hope Andy Gibson does, just like I hope Delbert Hosemann does, just like I hope Shad does,
Yeah, I think it is a great opportunity for them. I have used sentence enhancers in the past. I don't make a habit of it. Around me, I don't routinely drop, go blue.
Yep.
When I'm talking, but I do think it is an opportunity for her to set herself apart, just as it is an opportunity for Andy Gibson. I mean, he's the first one I heard of that dropped his toe in the water and is moving forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope we do get to find out who is who. You find out who is who from your elected representatives by the actions they take and how they vote. Yeah. And it's a chance to ask those questions. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
I couldn't argue a bit of that with you, brother. I just know me as a politician, when I was ever sitting in a meeting or on a committee meeting or board meeting, full committee of the whole, we called it a cow. I would have never dreamed of that. But I think it just goes to show kind of how our society is changing a little bit. And I'll give you the last word, my friend.
Well, I would say this for any of the candidates. When you go out there, state what you hope to accomplish. The number one thing that I always look for, and I hammer this, every one of them, Lynn Fitch, Andy Gibson, Delbert Hosemann, They all took the exact same oath, and that's the oath to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Tell us how you did that. Tell us what you did to defend that, to defend the Constitution. If you can start from there and then talk about the other things, as long as they're in line with the Constitution, hey, you got a good chance of getting my vote.
Yep. Hey, brother Chris, I really appreciate the phone call, and we'll talk.
Thanks, man.
We'll talk again soon. We got to have lunch sometime.
All right, brother. Talk to you later.
Yep. Take care. That's brother Chris Hinkle, honorably retired FBI special agent, and always poignant, eloquent, and direct and to the point. And this is something. This is like my dad. I only have one real good lesson from my father. I have told this audience many times. I'm sure I'll remind him. My father told me one good piece of advice, and everything else was good advice too. It was exactly how not to be a dad, and I try to honor that. But one time, I had dropped a F-bomb as a 4-year-old. Now, where did I hear that language coming from? I heard it from him, and he was about to. I mean, cremate me would be a fair representation. But at the last moment, he stopped and just looked at me and walked away, and I was like, "Dad, what's wrong?" He goes, "You're my son. Are you so stupid that you can't make a point without using a bad word like that?" And I almost said something, but I knew to stay quiet, and that stuck with me. And does that say that I don't drop a circuitous F-bomb or S-bomb every once in a while? I do. I'm negligent of that. You don't have to ask any farther than the sweet toots or the sweet bee. But my point is that when you're running for office like that, we need to pick and choose when we're doing that, and especially in national headlines. And maybe that senator, I'm not sure where he was from. Maybe he was right to do it on that stage because it was Dr. Anthony Fauci. But it's just for me. It's just I think we can do better. And I'm not saying that I'm like would never vote for the guy. He's definitely on the right side of that issue. I'm just saying, can we do better? Can we do better? Look, we had breaking news at the top of last hour. I actually cut me off, but talking to brother Chris, I always want to give him that honor, and he had some really good points to say. So we're going to take a break a little bit early, and when we get back, we're going to break this breaking news. I can't believe she said it, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely incredible, and we need more of her doing this. We'll be right back. And we are back here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB. Phone number if you want to be part of the show, 601-879-0002. And this segment is brought to us by who? Eye Gear Optical, where we fit glasses to you, your lifestyle, and your budget. Located in Pearl, Mississippi, right there on Highway 80. Look, Bruce has got this $99 back-to-school special for eyeglasses for your kiddos. And we know that prescriptions change and glasses get expensive. And right now, for a limited time, he's got a $99 back-to-school special. 1-year warranty on frames and lenses. Includes custom fitting, hard eyeglass case, lens cleaning spray, and a cleaning cloth. You're not going to find a better deal than that, ladies and gentlemen. And as someone who wears gear from Eye Gear Optical, I can tell you he's going to treat you right. You can find him at eyegearoptical.com. That's eyegearoptical.com. Brother Bruce, we appreciate you supporting the show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not trying to push this can down the curb. The show just flows the way it flows. But, the Save America Act is a big deal. And ladies and gentlemen, she did it. I can't believe it. She actually went full scorched earth on Senate leadership, full West Ham United, planning for August recess. She came away. You can't believe she said this, dude. I mean, I got the quotes right here. What's up with the recess anyway? What's a month get off of work? What's up? Who gets a month off from work? I think we should stay here and stay until we get the work done. I'm all in for it. This is where I differ from my other colleagues. Getting rid of the filibuster to get this done because eventually the Democrats are going to get rid of it anyway. We've been begging for somebody to say this. We've been begging. In New Jersey, they had 6,000 people, non-citizens, registered to vote, and several hundred of them did vote in our elections. She absolutely nailed it, ladies and gentlemen. You all thought I was talking about Cindy Hyde-Smith, but we know that's not true. This is Senator Darlene Graham from South Carolina who took the place of Lindsey Graham. Listen to what she said.
Get it done. What's up with recess anyway? Who gets a month off from work? I think we should stay up there and work and get it done. You have to have an ID to check out a library book, to buy alcohol, and you don't have to have an ID to vote. That's absurd. In New Jersey, they had 6,600 people, non-citizens registered to vote, and several hundred of them did vote in our election. And I am all for, this is where I differ from my brother, getting rid of the filibuster to get this done, because eventually the Democrats are going to get rid of it anyway. All right, our next.
And that was from the debate in South Carolina. I'm sorry it was so quiet. I had the volume cranked up as much as I possibly could. But, the pressure is building in D.C. on this. And it just continues to grow. And that's why I continue to talk about this so frequently. It's why I am not afraid to bring it up. And I know that there's other places on the radio and other places on the TV dial that don't want to talk about it. But we had 15 senators as of yesterday come out and say that they were against going into recess and for the Save America Act. 3 more U.S. senators have joined that list. And I've got the tweets here on X to prove it. Senator Mike Crapo, however you say it. I'm not trying to be hateful, Mr. Senator. I'm just saying what it's saying here in front of me. John Husted of Ohio and James Langford of Oklahoma, all coming out against the August recess. And they're all coming out in support of the Save America Act because it's important, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of those issues. I think it's going to be the election issue of 2026. I thought it was Epstein, and I still think there should be something there. But if we can't even lock down our own election cycles, well, we're going to have Dearborn. And we don't want Dearborn. And I've got the receipts on that, too. And people are like, well, what's wrong with James Langford? If you go back to what he did in the 2024 election cycle, trying to cause all sorts of hate and discontent, people from Oklahoma will tell you. I know because I'm still friends with a lot of people from the Oklahoma GOP. And when I lived out there in Newalla in Cleveland County, right outside of Tinker Air Force Base. Well, not right outside, about 20 miles away, but you understand what I'm saying. But everybody who's coming up for re-election in 2028 is starting to to come around. Why is it? Because they're coming up from an election. But instead of having an election every 4 years, the 17th Amendment got it to every 6. Andrew, you talk about that all the time. Well, you got to repeat information in this society for people to actually get it through their nuggets. It's not that they're dumb or stupid. It's just how their brains are programmed. If you hear something one time, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember hearing something about that on 103.9 WYB, but I don't remember the host who did it or when I heard it or when. That's why we repeat things, ladies and gentlemen. So now we're up to 18 U.S. senators who are coming out against the recess and for the Save America Act. And I think that's absolutely important. And I also got this here from Mr. Thune. And I'm looking for the here it is. Here it is right here. Sorry it took so long. Sometimes I get these bookmarks flip-flopped and all going around. But this is Rick Scott from the other day on Fox News talking about the Save America Act.
Well, we ought to be voting on it every week, and even if we can't get the whole thing passed, vote on parts of it. And I believe we ought to force people to talk. That's how the filibuster is supposed to work. And then when people are done talking, you vote. It only takes 50 votes. But that's not where we are. What we can do this week is we're going to have hopefully a reconciliation vote this week, which will get as much in the Save America Act in the reconciliation vote, which only takes Republican votes, and get that started this week. It won't be finished this week. Ron Johnson, the chair of the Budget Committee.
And Ron Johnson, as of this recording, as of right now, still hasn't come out and talked about fully supporting the Save America Act, but he is saying the right things and doing the right things. Do I put him in the list of 18? No. But the fact that he's the Senate chairman of that committee who is bringing this forward, I think is a big deal. I'll go ahead and retweet this as well, because again, if you don't have the information, then what good does it do? I want to make sure I get all the right thing. I had a video from John Thune basically whining and complaining about how they're not the votes there. If there aren't the votes there, that's fine. But just tell the American people who are the people who are the no votes. Text check or chat checking in. Common sense, ain't it, Andrew? I do love them when they say fresh meat gets thrown into the mix. I hope she sticks with to her guns. I think she will on this issue. President Trump basically gave her his endorsement, and that is a 99.9% cheat code in the Republican primary and in the general election. And I think when it comes to the Save America Act, she'll be steadfast. Now, will she be a pro-Ukraine, pro-Iran war person? I don't know. I mean, that's something gets back to the whole announcement of Lynn Finch earlier today. If you have somebody who is for your biggest issue, but on other big issues that you think are important, they're against, do you vote against that person or do you vote for that person? Do you take what you can get when you can get it? Or do you just say, nope, my moral compass says that I can't do that? And there are some issues where it's like that. For me personally, I'm a pro-life person, and I can tell you, I can count on one finger at a time that I voted for somebody who wasn't pro-life. And when I looked at it, I'm like, I'm a pro-life person, and how come I'm support this person? Well, at the county board level, we didn't have any real say on that in Illinois, and I made the decision that, you know what, this person was fiscally responsible, truly believed in limited government, wanted free markets, and that's just how I went. Some of you might say, Andy, how could you do that? I could never, ever vote for you again. We're in this nation and in this moment of absolutes in our society, digital ones and zeros. And we can't make really sound decisions anymore. We're making decisions that are not necessarily the best and brightest. And again, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for the reason, for the hope that is in you, for the light that is in you, yet do so with gentleness and respect. I try to be that way with everybody. There are times where you gotta drop in the GBU 57, ladies and gentlemen. It maybe only needed a small diameter bomb, but you decide you're going to drop a Moab. Hey, I can appreciate that. I truly can. But when it comes to the Save America Act, if we don't get it together, you're going to see not just Mississippi turn into it, but you're going to see the rest of America turn into a Dearborn, into a New York, into a Seattle. You can see what happens when states actually start cleaning up their cities, though. Oh, I've got to try to find it during the commercial break. We're going to take a little commercial break. I want to try to find this song that was a #1 national hit, because there's a really great story that came out of the Save America Act and everything that ICE is doing. We're going to take you know what? Let's take this phone call real quick. Let's see what. Hey, go ahead. You've got 1 minute.
Oh, my brother, good to hear from you.
Brother Richard, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah, it has. We've been to Alaska. We went on a cruise, and when I was in Seattle, you just mentioned that. And I don't know if you remember, you used to go to Metro Center and buy all these different jelly beans. They had all these crazy flavors.
I remember.
Ronald Reagan. Man, let me tell you what, when you walk through the airport in Seattle, it's kind of like going back there.
Wow.
You've never seen so many different colored hair, different shapes, sizes of people's frame. I mean, it's like going back to the jelly beans back then. If you mentioned, and I'll cover this quickly, if they get the Save America Act passed and they get these redistricting districts drawn, the communists know they're toast, because fortunately about 54% of the American public still got a little sense.
Yep.
And they know if they can get this thing squared up, that the votes will actually reflect the American public, and they know it. This is their last stand right here. This is the battle of Little Bighorn. What was it when Custer died?
Yep.
They know this is it right here, brother. But good to hear from you. I know you're tight for time, and have a good day. Love you.
Brother Richard, love you too, man. I really appreciate the phone call, and you put a lot in there, but we got to take this commercial break. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB. Be right back.
This professional 32 terabytes SSD, capable of holding the entire collection of the New York Public Library, is something you won't find at Best Buy or any electronics retailer.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets. of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
Yep. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Brother Richard, really appreciate it. You know, it's amazing what happens when you start getting rid of illegal immigrants or immigrants who've stayed here too long. You know, President Trump took so much garbage for this, so much so that they made a national number one hit. And it's only right that we play it right now.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat.
Do it. Let's go.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat
Kamala
the cat.
laughing.
Eat the cat. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
Yes.
Eat the cat. Eat the cat.
That's what they said. Remember, everybody on CNN, MS Now / BS Always, they were giving our man Trump all sorts of garbage for saying this. Well, all the Haitian immigrants are now out of. Oh man, I turned off the CNN debater, but that's okay. I'll put a link to this. It's actually on YouTube, but it's amazing we didn't get a commercial pop up there. But we got rid of the protected immigrant status for all these Haitians, and that city in Ohio, I think it was Springfield, Ohio. If it was, you let me know. But they now are having their housing reclaimed, and they're having to spend not hundreds of millions, but tens of millions of dollars to rehab all these states where little Haiti completely destroyed a once middle-class neighborhood. You had a neighborhood town of about 40,000 turn into a 60,000 person neighborhood that couldn't support it. It drove housing markets through the roof. People couldn't afford their homes there, couldn't buy homes. And now they're all gone and houses are vacant, and they're having to reclaim parts of the city just to get it livable again. So that's why I'm such a big proponent of the Save America Act, and you should be too, but I've got more reasons to be a proponent of the Save America Act. Do you know in New York they're having all of these grocery stores, these communist grocery stores pop up? And what they don't realize is that they're driving away all of the mom and pop grocers in New York City, because they're still going to have to pay full rates, and they're still going to have to pay the taxes. But now under Mayor Mondami, you're going to be able to go into these government-run stores and pay 30% less. But ladies and gentlemen, this is coming from Dave Portnoy. He asked a real question. How are we going to know who's going to get the food? You know, the poor are very thrifty. If they can go buy food for 30% less and then go turn around and sell it for a 50% markup or a 30% markup, they're going to do it.
How are you going to keep people from taking advantage of that, that deal, basically? And is there going to be a limit on the number of items that someone can take that are discounted at that level from that essential basket?
So our RFP makes very clear that this is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program for people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling. I'm going to pass it over to our EDC head, G-Pack, to add.
Oh crap, I'm not going to tell them that I need to have a ID to make sure that they are who they say they are, because you can't do that. All the illegal Islamists who migrated into New York turning it into a third world hellhole, and I get that from good authority.
Some additional details.
Yes, if you look at our RFP for the operator,
RFP, for those of you who don't know, is a government term for request for proposals.
we are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be at sort of a library card-esque thing, and also we manage.
So how are these people going to go get a library card? They can't even read English. They have all their, they look at their cell phones, it's all in Arabic. How's this going to work? If they can get an ID to go to the government food store, why can't they get an ID to go vote? And while we're at it, why can't we go ahead and make them sure that they're here legally, not illegally?
Who's buying, and that is focused on everyday New Yorkers. So we are mindful of that. And so we're going to make sure that we have all the things in place to ensure that that does not happen.
But I'm not going to say that you need a valid government state ID. That we're just going to go get a library card. Heck, anybody can go get a library card. Or when you go get a library card, do you need a state ID to get an ID card? A library card, you know? Go figure. El Presidente is figuring it out really quick that being liberal and being Jewish is not always the best idea. But I've got more of this, ladies and gentlemen. I've got more of this. Listen to this sermon, and I want you to be really careful. This is not, I want you to just listen to this, because this is America and what's coming to America if we don't pass this Save America Act.
We're gathered here today to commemorate the martyrdom of the great leader of our time, Sayyid Ali al-Husseini al-Khamenei, rahmatullahi alayh.
We might think this was an attack led by Zionist Jews, but the commander of their mission is the very one who was trying to prove that Adam was not worth prostrating to. Iblis is the one behind the scenes leading their camp, in the shadows lurking, irking, in their symbology, their ideologies, their psychology, their economy, claiming they...
This is a mosque in America, ladies and gentlemen, with the picture of the former Ayatollah Khomeini. I'm not trying to be hateful when I pronounce names. I never try to do that, but I think that's how they say it. And listen, this is Dearborn, Michigan. There are places in Jackson that are very similar to this.
Follow the laws of Moses and Deuteronomy. Iblis is the hidden commander of today's society. Regardless of the stooge we put at the desk of the Oval Office, Republican or Democrats, or even if 1,000 elections come to pass, it is clear that this country was built for and built by the Epstein class.
And isn't that what Satan does? He uses a bit of truth in the big lie, and everybody glams onto that. Because the imam here is correct. We've got a bunch of Epstein pedophiles who are in charge of major portions of this government, and no one wants to go after it. And when you do go after it, you have attempted assassinations, and no one really wants to go after it. And we're supposed to stand up to be counted, and we're not.
And that just like Palestine, we live on stolen land.
So are you saying that Palestine is being influenced by a bunch of colonizers? Is the United States being overran by a bunch of colonizers?
The devil-worshipping Freemasons reached these shores, and the Zionist-minded Christopher Columbus came to explore, and they genocided the natives. And put the one eye of the devil on their currency to put their plans and...
Ladies and gentlemen, this goes on for 6 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole sermon here because I think you're wiser than that. I will repost it, though, on my X account, at Andrew Gosser, so you can listen to it. because you don't understand what's happening in Palestine. Oh, I found the Thune video, but I'm going to worry about that one later. This is Dearborn, Michigan, ladies and gentlemen.
رسميا للسنة الثانية على التوالي أحضر وأزور كربلاء من غير ما أزور كربلاء، مو كربلاء العراق إنما كربلاء أمريكا. ديربورن ميشيغان.
تتهيأ الخدم يتبدل العلم بالحضانة.
Ladies and gentlemen, I feel like I'm back in Kabul, Afghanistan, or maybe Kuwait City. I am serious. You see the women wearing the black burqas, full headdress, some of them full face scarves, wearing flags, parades, doing their Afghani and Kuwaiti street food, lamb and goat. Lamb and goat. Love eating lamb and goat. I'm a lamb farmer. I can eat the mess out of it. But this is what happens when you don't stand up for your tradition on what got us here. And we all know what got us here. Person checking in. I'm disgusted. I grew up in the Tri-County area in Michigan. So sad. Invasion. Yeah, we have been invaded. And I've been very careful to say this, but the more we are having a soft invasion. It's not a soft invasion. It's a cold war. It's not a hot war. It's a cold war invasion. And when you want to see what's going to happen, just go look no further than Spain, where it just boils over and they just go and take a bunch of land and they say, oh, well, we don't want to fight, so we'll do that. And don't think for a minute that these men aren't trained up to fight. And we'll be all right here in Mississippi, but not everybody around the country has their Mississippi redneck, Cajun redneck. The truth of the matter is we have fallen away from God and we've been lazy with our Constitution. Meanwhile, we're worrying about silly things in our government, like renaming post offices, and wondering if our immigration laws are being followed appropriately. You know that President Obama has deported more people in 2 years than President Trump did in all 6 of his years so far. He did more in 2. We weren't protesting ICE then. CNN was doing ride-alongs with ICE, talking about how great they were. They even had a ride-along where they got the wrong guy. Could you imagine if they got the wrong guy now? You'd have the irreverent Al Sharpton and Ben Crump all over that nonsense. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB. I'll be right back. I appreciate everybody. 2 hours already gone. But at least the phone lines are working. People are calling in. It's a great day. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Look, over the weekend, people don't know, but we had 45,000 soldiers show up on the streets of Dearborn. 45,000 people. But this wasn't a patriotic protest. This was Dearborn, Michigan, in a massive Islamic procession. Black flags, Arabic chants, Hezbollah and Hamas linked imagery, a scene ripped straight out of the Palestine or Lebanon. This isn't cultural festival. It's a victory parade. And I'm just going to play a little bit of sound of it. I got 30 seconds of it here. They're producing media now for consumption all across social media and the local news stations. They got the police cars there and the cops sitting there cheering them, but acting all nice. This isn't America. This isn't red, white, and blue. This isn't even Little Italy or Little Mexico or Chinatown. This is third world invasion coming right here to Mississippi soon. They always show the Islamic guy handing a cop a water bottle. See, we're friendly. There are more signs in Arabic than there are in English. And people say, Andy, don't you think you're a little bit of a racist for one? No, if I go move to Islamabad, I'm expected to read Arabic. If I move to Japan, I'm expected to read Japanese. If I move to China, I'm expected to read Chinese. Korean, same thing. Korea, same thing. But that's not what happens in America because of these communists who are trying to take over our country. These Islamists who are trying to take over our country. And they're using our own system against us, and we're too stupid to see it. It's like I'm having this continuous debate with a liberal friend of mine. He is slowly starting to see the error of his ways with being a Democrat and not worrying about the Democrat Socialists of America. Much like the same thing is going to be happening right here in Mississippi. Don't think that they're not here. The communists are here and they're listening. Some of them even call in sometimes when they feel brave. I have no problem saying my hatred for communism, how I believe it, talking to Islamists, not just here who are here now, but overseas, how they openly talking about how they're going to use America's system against us. They're colonizing, text coming in and saying they're colonizing to end our traditions and start their own traditions here. Yes, they are. We put out a commercial about it. Islam is 100% incompatible with the constitutional republic. Yeah, but how many kids out there know that we're actually a constitutional republic and not a democracy? You have these news sources going out there and saying, "Oh, we're a representative we're a democracy." No, we're actually a representative republic. Benjamin Franklin said we had a representative republic if we could keep it. But it ain't looking too hot, ladies and gentlemen. Time goes by so fast here on the Andrew Gosser Show. 2 hours. Sometimes I sit down and I've got all this stuff and I'm like, are we going to have enough time to get it all in? And the answer is always no. Never worry about having to fill space here on the Andrew Gosser Show. We'll be back again in 22 hours. Until then, take care, everybody. Be blessed. Yes, and amen. Amen, ladies and gentlemen.